Welcome back to the Smite Pro League. Finch here, joined by Anatoly on the desk this time. A bit of a different look after that lengthy set that we just got through enjoying. But we got another one coming up that I think will be just as good. Mouse up against Obey.
Both teams are a little interesting, I think, to start off the fall split. Coming in hot was Obey, beating out SK and Rival in week number 1, losing to Energy and Dignitas, sitting at 2-2. Mouse found a victory over SK, but struggling against the top 3 trio, Titans, Dignitas, Energy, and Rival.
But this could put them right back up there in the mix with Rival Energy and Rival and Energy. And what a chase it will be, right? If there's 3 teams, all 3-2, trying to get to that same spot.
Especially considering that this is going to be the conclusion after this set of the first half between the fall splits. Still 3 more weeks to remain. And between these two teams, it's anyone's game considering the history between these two. Spring going all the way of Obey. Summer was Mouse's favor.
That's right. Obey has struggled a little bit here considering spring and summer. And a little bit, I think, is putting it mildly. Really just not at the level that we expected them to be at. But it's a different story, I feel like, for them here in fall. They recognize as a team how important this was. Hazer said that they sort of refocused here on how well they'd be able to play in this split. And they want to be able to go into World strong. They've got a chance to do that. This will put them right back in the hunt if they get this win.
I think that there's a lot of pressure on CaptainTwig and also PrettyPriMe for the follow-up to find some of these victories. Considering the god pool of CaptainTwig is very flexible, so they need to really play off of that possibility to see if they can claim a victory here today.
I think you're right, but I think there's a lot of pressure on iRaffer as well for this team. So often, Prime and Twig play well for them, but iRaffer's hot and cold for my money, right? We have games where iRaffer looks like the only support I want. I want iRaffer, please. And then there's games where I go, no, I do not. So it's like he's got to make sure that he's able to consistently be at that level for this team, because we know he can't play at that level, right? He's got to make sure he's consistently there for this team too.
And on the other side for Mouse, it's Dardez on that support role.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you might always want Dardez on your
point.
side. Cherryo has been known to play the hop wall from time to time, and that could be a contested pick between these two teams.
Yeah, I think that Cherryo, but Dardez is another good one to focus in on, and interesting to make this about the supports here, but I think you're very right. He plays so uniquely from this position. He doesn't always play the traditional supports. He rotates a lot. He leaves Spudio to his own devices in that dual lane and tries to look for impact. We've seen him on Najah's and aggressive picks. iRaffer can be the same way. iRaffer can play stuff you don't expect. He can be rotating around the map. Which one of these non-traditional supports is going to have the bigger impact? That could very well determine the set.
I think the soul lane should be an interesting one. Nika up against Xaliea. Both players have a different style from time to time, mostly warriors versus guardians, even Xaliea playing some healing mages from time to time. Hell, not even too long ago.
That's right, yeah. He'll play just about anything with Xaliea, and I like getting to watch him. At one point, up there, I think, with some of the best solo laners in the world. I'm thinking back to like when he was still with like the Funball roster. Well, they had so many different names at different points, right? But now I think he's sort of regrinding back up to that level. He's still good for them, maybe not up in that conversation. He's got to make sure he shows it here up against Nika.
He's always trying to play that utility style, so I think when we approach picks and bans for this game, that the contest is going to be for the junglers between Cherryo and CaptainTwig. Is it going to be the Hobwa chase, or are they going to go for more of like that dual lane hunter side? Are they going to get Spudio in a comfortable position, or Ataraxia with a Chernobog pick?
Well, let's see exactly what it is that they pick. Let's go ahead and get the picks and bans ready here and now. Game 1 between Obey and Mouse already about to be underway. Obey will be that first pick selection. If I know Hazer, if I know this squad, then they've already got something cooking. We can see more Opwash from Prime. We can see more like that. I'm very curious.
Probably. Wouldn't be surprised.
No reason not to, man.
Najah could be a highly contested pick. Cherryo and CaptainTwig still like it despite the nerfs to the physical power passive. Doesn't matter. Najah's still going to do Najah things.
Look at that. Chalk being banned away here. Remember, Mouse did play a little bit weird the other day, didn't they? I think they gave Ting the Chalk in middle lane, so get that out of there. Yeah, apparently.
It does a lot of damage, to be fair. And when you're a mage in the mid lane, having to deal with a physical warrior or a physical assassin, you're not going to win that trade. At least in the early game, you don't have that much power because your power comes from leveling your abilities and getting your items online, whereas the base damage from some warriors and assassins, even in the early game, is to be respected.
That's right. They can hit you right out of the gate as Chernobog going to come through from Obey. Mal's going to lock in the Apollo here. And I'm not 100% that this is in answer to the Chernobog, but I think Apollo in a slower version kind of can match that same rotational ability.
You got Neith, you got Apollo, you got also Shibalanki.
Yeah.
These are some of your global hunters that can at least do something to disrupt the flow on the opposite end. So I'm not too mad at this. The Chariot also providing that knock-up recently that we added as well. And with a Baron for Mouse, they could have a decent amount of a laning phase control if they pair that up in the dual lane.
That very well could be the dual lane. I agree with you, the Baron Apollo lane, and what a lane it would be. But look at Obey. I mean, it's hard to ask for 3 stronger picks than that. Maybe if you could slide a Freya or Naja in there, it could get a little better. But Athena, Sobek, Chernobog's already feeling nice.
It's looking really good if you're Obey, having a lot of control between the plucks and the taunts. You don't want to be out of position if you're the Baron.
No, not at all. Get caught in quickly. Even if you're not out of position, Sobek can make you out of position, so it's a difficult life, and likely Sobek will be over in the soul lane, I imagine. And so now we got Baron and Artio. I think those are probably our 2 picks between solo support. Artio a little bit more likely to go into the support role, you'd say, or maybe more solo?
You say that, but the last time Cherryo played Artio, actually.
That's fair. Jeez Louise.
I think it was up against Rival where they played that.
That's actually true.
So could see some Artio jungle today.
I don't want to see that.
Why not? She does a lot of damage.
Assassins are good. Totally.
Assassins are good, but you know Cherryo to be a Guardian player.
That's
the
true.
Brackens of the world. He's the one that also plays the Athena from time to time if it's available.
I think this is a potential jungle pick. I think you're not wrong to highlight that opportunity by any means as Anhur comes through, cementing the double hunter here for Mouse. But Opwash being banned away, I like that. That's smart. Obey maybe trying to get that value late game pick. So they'll go with budget Opwash and take Zeus.
Not a bad idea. The old school Zeus is now known as the budget Outwash. What a world to be alive in. It's actually Outwash being banned in the secondary phase. Understanding that Obey and PrettyPriMe really prefer that amount of huge AoE control.
Now Achilles going to come through. This screams early game to me, doesn't it? They have the Achilles, plenty of damage come through from Zeus, and I got to think Achilles is going into the jungle with this draft as well.
I don't know necessarily. With Athena and the Sobek, Athena can be flexible.
Sure.
Like iRaffer has played Achilles before in the support role. If iRaffer does play Achilles, that means it has to be Athena jungle and Sobek solo lane. If it's going to be Achilles in the jungle, then Athena is going to be the solo lane choice.
No, it's looking more and more like Artio jungle, totally. Oh, goodness gracious. You can't put Wukong in the jungle, right?
You could, but I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, you can. I don't think that that's going to be the case here. So who do you think is going to win out there, chat? Mouse, I couldn't have expected anything differently. I'm disappointed that for a few seconds there, I acted like this is going to be a normal draft here. We know Mouse what they do. They play their style, and when they look best, it's like this. It's playing their style, so I love when Mouse sticks to this.
I was low-key hoping for a Fafnir last pick for that triple guarding double hunter, old school elevate style.
I think that could have been good, too.
If you could have Fafnir support, Artio jungle, Baron in that soul lane, but going for the Sun Wukong has a good long-range poke, and with the Somersault Cloud, you could still get out of the action if you get in trouble.
Very curious on if they're going to be able to make this work for them. I think you're right to call that Artio going to Cherryo. Certainly could still be, but we won't know until they actually get into the battleground. Let's get this over to the caster to see where everything ends up going.
Wukong jungle. Give it to me, baby.
Wukong ADC.
No, it's Wukong mid, obviously. Are you kidding me?
I don't think so. BigManTingz doing
Big
some
man
things.
things.
No, I don't want to say BigManTingz just yet because we need to let the pick play out first.
Hey, man, the first ban Shock was because of his dominant Shock mid performance the other day, which I am obviously adding some sort of tone to, but you know what? It was dominant Shock mid play.
For anybody who wants the explanation, by the way, Dardez on the Anhur support because Spudio and Dardez are just looking to try and pressure out this dual lane super heavily. They've already cleared out the wave incredibly fast. Going to be able to clear out that purple buff before Ataraxia even finishes rotating over. Ataraxia going to try and give it a chance to steal with the Vicious Barrage, but won't be successful in doing so. So Obey do end up confirming their own red buff, but Mouse have the advantage so far in the dual lane.
So let me break this down a little bit. I saw this last time Mouse played. They did it in game number 2. So support Anhur. You are technically correct in that Dardez is the support player on the roster sheet for mousesports. But there's no intention of Dardez building into a super defensive build. He's going to be playing offensive. You've got 2 carries in the long lane and a support in the jungle.
Speaking of which, CaptainTwig here now in a whole lot of danger. Cherryo trying to dash forward, won't be able to find it, however. In fact, could end up getting turned upon. PrettyPrime's going to have that chain lightning up pretty soon here.
Where's the detonate?
No
he doesn't have it.
follow-up, only level 2 so far.
Doesn't have the detonate available to him. BigManTingz finding the poke. So a ton of damage being exchanged in the mid lane.
And I want to go back to addressing that whole Anhur support, some Wukong mid thing. Because for me, the last few sets that we've seen out of Mouse, it's not that they're trying to gear their composition towards laning phases in the slightest. They're going for what they feel will be allowing them to snowball pressure out in the early game, because when you get a double hunter composition online, it's incredibly difficult to prevent them from taking every structure.
Which is why Obey, not only every structure, but also the jungle camps. So, Cherryo actually shot me a message and said, you know, decent analysis on the other day. So I think I'm kind of right in the idea that Mouse are looking to push out the duo lane, get pressure, and then inevitably invade over and over and over again. Now, Obey responded perfectly. They started at the red buff. So the pressure did go to the hunters, and then the two hunters walked to the jungle, and there ain't nothing there to pick up. So Obey tried to counter this conversation and did so very well. Dardez and Spudio are both going to be carries, and you stuck Nika with the Baron in the short lane. Mouse right now are really after the Baron Samedi, I think, and then BigManTingz can play a tanky damage dealer in the middle lane and be sort of half and half.
Speaking of which, looks like Cherryo was successful in confirming that buff forward. Nika gonna go ahead and pick up that blue, but Cherryo sitting relatively low. A lot of aggression from Xaliea and CaptainTwig here, but not enough to confirm. Ataraxia forced to get that shell from iRaffer, but now Dardez could actually be the one in trouble.
Spudio's gonna get taunted a little bit right into the damage from Ataraxia. He's gonna go ahead and peel it back a little bit. Spudio's gonna have access to the lifesteal. Dardez building in a Transcendence, so he won't.
Dardez is going to go straight for raw power here, and I like that mindset. You just... It's not usually as effective when you have two different hunters stacking from the same lane, but I would imagine that because of Transcendence still providing Dardez a little bit of a power spike, stacks aren't typically as important on this item. He can wait and let Spudio have the initial last hits to build up those Devos first and foremost. And speaking of which... Dardez might not even have to be as concerned about that because Spudio is going for the boots rush anyway. My issue with Mouse is that this is a very risk-first reward strategy from them, because at a certain point, if they're unable to attain the amount of pressure that they are looking for in this dual lane, Ataraxia and iRaffer are going to have such a strong advantage since they're the one with the actual Guardian in the lane.
Yeah, as far as the laning phase is concerned, and like you mentioned earlier on, Taco, Mouse just aren't thinking about it. They are trying to get out of the laning phase as soon as possible. That's why the double stacking thing in lane doesn't really matter, because Dardez is going to be out of that lane. His mentality is to leave. He becomes sort of this pseudo jungler. Cherryo and Nika are your two traditional frontline tanks. BigManTingz is sort of your solo laner, who's going to be a little offensive and very defensive. iRaffer is your first blood, as Dardez picks up the kill in the left-hand side. Wonderful play by Mouse. But Obey are going to look to collapse. Here comes Zeus, and trouble for BNT. He's going to go into the cloud and look for safety. Left, right? Right it is.
As long as he's got that somersault available, no chances of really being brought down anytime soon. Going to be able to just roll on out of there, no problem. In fact, gets a little bit of heal as well. Like that BigManTingz waited out the full duration to get as much sustain as possible, just in case he landed back down on the ground again. Twig wouldn't have the fatal strike for the execute range.
So late game, this team will have two hunters as their primary damage dealers. BigManTingz is going to be building into Transcendence and high damage items. So he's going to be this weird solo laner, but if your solo laner was more tilted towards damage. Mouse have done this composition once or twice. I really do like this composition. Shock and Sun Wukong are very similar in that regard. They're damage dealing warriors. Cherryo dissuaded and walking over here. So that's why we see these specific choices for Mouse. Now, I'm not advocating and saying that this is the way to go, or this is the best, or better. This is a different approach. I see all the merits to it. I actually don't mind it, to be honest with you, Taco. But I think the biggest caveat to this composition or this approach to the game is the fact that the two hunters are in the same lane. I'm almost interested to see what happens if Dardez and Nika switch positions, but I think there's a reason that Nika is there in the solo lane on the Baron.
That'd just be way too rough, I think. If Dardez tried to play an Anhur in the solo lane, he would just be ganked off cooldown and probably punished pretty heavily for it. Sobek as well does a really great job against Hunters. I think the God survivability would make things incredibly difficult for Dardez to really accomplish what he's after. Meanwhile, if he just runs at iRaffer with pressure early on, Athena can struggle a little bit on her own. We already saw just how quickly Athena can be brought down from one impale stun.
And like we said, a large part of this conversation is, or this composition rather, is about the supreme push that Mouse is going to have on the left side. You can see them right now just hunting for this red buff. 4 players deep. BigManTingz kind of zoning as well and letting his team show up here. CaptainTwig gets knocked up. Athena's coming through, but a beautiful pillar to separate the enemy from Mouse's team. Dardez had to use the beads to get away from there. But now here's the ultimate right on top of iRaffer and CaptainTwig. They got to get on out of there. Spudio take it to the skies.
But check out Cherryo. He's already aggressing onto PrettyPriMe. iRaffer now could end up falling next, but BigManTingz is way better interest in mind as he's going to go straight for CaptainTwig with that Tiger transformation. An easy double kill is what it looked like for Mouse. It does come at an expense. They do end up losing Spudio, but when you have Dardez as your secondary hunter, does it even matter?
I don't think so, and I think that's my secondary part. Oh, teleport? No, it's just a ward being placed. Dardez is arguably the best player on this team.
Cherryo's toast. He stuck around for way too long, recognizing now that iRaffer's not
No, he's
going to
good.
the chase.
Does iRaffer get an assist for that? He does not.
iRaffer didn't get the assist, but Cherryo's still down for another 20 seconds, and this blue buff that Cherryo has made sure to be on time for to help defend Nika, it's not going to be available anymore.
Well, Dardez and BMT are here, so Xaliea does have to walk in the other direction. Even has to pop the ultimate. Oh, look at this play. Look at this play. Look at this play. Nika with the turnaround. Dardez with the stun. Xaliea still able to dash out of there. Oh, I got excited for that one. That was kind of fun. But again, talking about this weird oddball approach to the game, the composition. Taco, here's something that Mouse won't admit to. Dardez is their best player, so they make sure he has a carry instead of a Sylvanas. I think that's also a big boon for this comp.
I'm not sure that I agree with that.
That Dardez is their best player?
I think that initially Dardez was one of the best supports in Europe.
Yeah.
But he has kind of fallen a little bit, I think.
Really?
I
think he's still
can
not
always
good.
appreciate Mouse wanting to be innovative. I think that is the right direction to head in with how competitive Europe is at the moment. But sometimes it does feel like they kind of hinder themselves. They draw up a pros and cons list and only tend to look towards the pros.
Sure.
And I understand it because when you're running risk reward situations, you understand there's going to be repercussions, just like Nika being left alone over there in solo lane just a second too long there. Twig with a great blink in, gonna help Xaliea to confirm that.
Yeah, Twig's repeatedly been blinking in out of nowhere. Really nice stuff from the jungler. But continue what you were saying about kind of Mouse hamstringing themselves.
I just think that Dardez has felt as though, and not even Dardez, I should say Mouse as a whole, feels as though aiming for specifically team fights is the best way to go about handling a match as opposed to trying to draft out pressure for your side lanes and your mid lane based on whether or not you're going to be able to handle your laning phases and what your jungler is looking like, if they're going to have early, mid, or late game pressure. And for Mouse, you get all this pressure in duo, but you can't really do that much with it. We see the double hunters out clearing every single time in the wave, but what are they going to do after that? It's not like they're going to be able to rush down objectives immediately. You have PrettyPriMe with the Zeus, and as much as I think Mouse were great with their innovation here, I also think Obey were even better at responding to the draft.
Yeah, I think they did Obey did a great job of looking for that red buff the first time around. Second and third time, Mouse were able to take advantage of their pressure. Absolutely a thing. But this mousesports team has come a long way from Cherryo being the star of the team. BigManTingz and Dardez have been the 2 players to look at, and most notably, the last time they played this competition, Nika was elevated to a spot where he could really do a lot. BigManTingz and Nika were just 2-man dunking on anybody, and CaptainTwig did not last long. 1 stun is all they needed. iRaffer could be next on the docket. Nice ultimate up from PrettyPriMe as he tosses it over the wall, but iRaffer in trouble.
Oh my
Ataraxia
God.
and the mid lane below 2 players up. Dardez and Spudio deleted.
Cherryo might not even be able to get away. Ataraxia still looking for that crystallized curses into the vicious barrage. iRaffer falling incredibly low because of BigManTingz, but Ataraxia sure as day able
Prime
to confirm
again?
that one.
Oh my goodness. Prime's out of control. I mean, and this is Prime with the Zeus. This is what we expect from Obey's famed middle laner. They give him the character Zeus or Vulcan, and he's just going to go to town.
But I feel like Zeus just negates everything that Mouse are looking for. They want to try and be the aggressors because they want to get all their damage off before Obey have a chance to respond to it. But all PrettyPriMe has to do is zone off an entire area, and then no one wants to bother tanking to try and aggress onto iRaffer. They stick around for entirely too long, so PrettyPriMe's detonate just does 1 billion damage to all 3 members from Obey, and then they're left to scatter.
Yeah, it was certainly a rough spot there, and I see that. I think that a big part of what Mouse need to do in this match is absolutely be wary of that ultimate from PrettyPriMe and bait it out. They have a number of characters that can be in a spot and quickly disperse. Spudio's got the dash, Dardez has the jump, BigManTingz has the animals, Cherryo has a dash as well. Everyone but Nika can scatter. And so what I want to see Mouse do is jump in, make Prime release the ultimate, and then get the hell out. And then re-engage, just like you would against the Zhang Kui type composition. Make sure that you can get out and back in really, really smoothly. That's how Mouse is going to win their team fights if they do so at all.
I do like that Mouse are still venturing deep into Obey's jungle, though, trying to find picks wherever they can, but BigManTingz might have bit off a little bit more than he can chew. CaptainTwig going to make him go right back to bases. Nika now getting aggressed onto one more time because of PrettyPriMe.
See, there are 2 problems there. One, BigManTingz is a little bit too far forward without his team. Sure, but again, this is the scenario we were just talking about, and Mouse did not disengage. Obey, they make Mouse group up, they drop the ultimate, and then PrettyPriMe just detonates, and players are just deleted. BigManTingz and Dardez have the same cooldown timer. That means they died at the same exact moment, which means they both got the Zeus juice. It's very clear. You have to avoid the rainstorm. If PrettyPriMe successfully ults, you lose the game, arguably. You lose the team fight. Mouse have to disengage around that.
I kind of just wish that BigManTingz would have gone for a runic shield early on, or even the Achilles, as opposed to the Transcendence. I get that Transcendence is a lot of power for a Sun Wukong, and Warriors, I mean, the only reason why you would ever take a Warrior into the mid lane to begin with is because you want pressure, you want the out clear, and Warriors are going to benefit pretty heavily from early to mid. It's just that we haven't seen nearly as much as what I think Mouse could have possibly had if BigManTingz were on a traditional mage. I don't think that this Sun Wukong is benefiting their current composition right now in the mid lane role. And I do have to draw it all back to Obey's counter composition with the Zeus pick.
Yeah.
2 hunters that do not fare very well underneath that Zeus ultimate, and the same for the Wukong. No one's building particularly tanky on the team just yet. Cherryo probably going to be the pseudo guardian as the jungler.
I mean, he is the Cherryo is playing support for this team right now. Yes, it's
it just feels too forced. I like the concept behind it,
right?
But they still have a little bit more to mess with.
Yeah, like this is very much. I don't think Mouse are coming to the business meeting saying, "Here's our $1 million idea." I think this is very much in the lab stage, and this is what has gotten past scrims. And for what it's worth, the last time they played it, they looked really good till the final moments. And mousesports right now, they're down 4,000, and it's all because of PrettyPriMe on Zeus. So it's interesting. Like I said, I'm not exactly saying this is the way to play Smite. I'm not saying that this is the all hands in correct approach, but there's 2 positives if you're a Mouse fan. 1, any team that is willing to look at the game as amorphously as Mouse, you have to commend, because I do think that our Hunter, Guardian, Mage, Assassin, Warrior, I do think that is a little bit yesteryear. And we see the mages come in, different things. Slowly but surely, our game is becoming more amorphous, and Mouse are recognizing that. And secondarily, they're out here like trying to win, right? They're not doing the same thing and losing 16 times a split. So I do also think that is something as a positive. If you're a middle-of-the-pack team and you're doing the same stuff and you're not succeeding, you've got to change it. And so there's a nod there. Like you said, I get it. I see where you're coming from, Mouse, and I applaud that you're giving it a shot. The Zeus is the problem for me. I actually don't mind having these offensive warriors I talk a lot about this like scale of warriors. You have your hyper defensive warriors like Nike, and then your hyper offensive warriors like, let's say, Chalk. Right? Chalk, Son Wukong. These are the characters that BMT is going to
Hold that thought, though. Cherryo already jumping right into the mix of the action. Going to be able to pull PrettyPrime's Purification Beads, but that's about it. Obey already stripped down that T1 tower in solo. Just a matter of time before Xaliea starts venturing on over into the mid lane, looking for the real objective sieges. Obey have already tackled one Gold Fury relatively early on as well. It seems like Obey have a pretty strong handle on this one.
Yeah, Obey in the driver's seat without a doubt. 5K in the lead at the moment, looking towards their second Gold Fury of the game. mousesports here, like you said earlier, just not really strong in the objective secure department. Dardez has a decent shot. Spudio can knock players up if he wants to ultimate, but this is Zeus's world. BigManTingz in trouble. Quickly in the ultimate. His team far behind. BigManTingz still will blink on out.
He's just got to look for the escape route. Gonna be forced out of that blink, unfortunately. Cherryo slowed now inside of that lurking in the waters, and Cherryo, even though he's building tanky, it sure doesn't look it right now, and that's just because Obey are steadily but surely pulling further and further away from Mouse here, just abusing the fact that Mouse, they only have these two hunters to rely on as the brunt of their damage. Outside of that,
I mean, the Sun Wukong is full damage.
but we haven't seen BigManTingz do anything other than ult defensively.
He's number 2 on the player damage.
That's 5,000 difference, though, between himself and PrettyPriMe.
Exactly.
I'd rather have the Zeus.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, BigManTingz is doing his job here.
But you've got your two hunters that are sitting at about 7,000 damage combined.
Yeah, that's a different story.
I think, again, this is kind of just a composition where Obey have felt a little bit more like a team that's best at responding to the drafts as they're happening. This felt like a composition that Mouse envisioned prior to this game ever even starting. And picks and bans, didn't matter what Obey selected, Mouse were going to go with this composition.
Yeah.
And it's that raw stubbornness that I can't help but feel like tends to hinder a lot of teams.
I agree. Picks and bans is not a solitaire game whatsoever. There is an opponent in picks and bans, and you absolutely have to be aware of it. Zeus in general is a problem. Zeus in general is a problem for Obey's opponents all the time. 5-1 and 2 for the Swedish mid laner. PrettyPriMe out of control. I have said this. I have said this since Obey lost. Oh man, a year. Give PrettyPriMe Zeus. Give him a carry.
I do want to clarify, though, by
How
no
they win.
means do I believe that this is in the slightest bit troll from Mouse.
No, not at all.
I think a lot of people back at home might be assuming that where this conversation is leading is more in a, oh, Mouse are clearly trolling.
I don't take
kind
it
of
that way for
situation.
what it's
Yeah,
worth.
but it's far from that. This is just Mouse trying out a different type of strategy and it just being handled very well by Obey. But speaking of which, Dardez is actually going to have an incredibly strong response now. CaptainTwig going to end up taking out Nika, but Dardez with the up and down Anhur on the backside doesn't even matter. BigManTingz still managing to find Xaliea.
Ataraxia, though, on a tear at the moment. If somebody quells the Dark Hunter, it'll be fine. But it seems that that's an issue. Double kill for Ataraxia so far. BigManTingz forced up into the ultimate. And whenever he does come down, it's probably curtains. Lands on top of Ataraxia, has to get away. Spudio takes care of Ataraxia. The animals come out, and that's BigManTingz escaping and taking care of business. Tier 2 tower remains. mousesports lose 4 players. Obey only lose 3. There's the Zeus juice. Deicide for Obey Alliance, 16-7. mousesports technically defend their tower, but they paid a tall price for it. 8,600. In the lead is Obey, and they're on the right side of the map. No fire giant, though.
Normally, I would say that the best focus for Mouse right now would be to continue trying to play off of their T2 structures and even their Phoenixes if it comes to that point. But the problem is, the later this game goes, the less and less likelihood of Mouse turning this match around starts to happen, because Obey, they've got Ataraxia. That's your late game hunter carry. I'd much rather have a Chernobog and a Zeus in the late game as my burst damage carries as opposed to Anhur and Apollo.
Yep.
Anhur and Apollo are just going to struggle since they're both physical damage dealers. On top of that, BigManTingz also another big damage dealer, but he's a melee range at that. And he does have some great poke tools and some nice interrupt factors as well in his kit, but with BigManTingz being as squishy as he is, he can't really afford to stand up against PrettyPriMe.
Yeah, it's interesting. mousesports moving away from the assassins very obviously here, and I think that hunters and warriors can kind of take that over. But Zeus is the type of character that I want a traditional assassin to deal with. By the way, mousesports have no idea Fire Dragon's going down.
No, I think they know. I just don't think that they want to bother trying to contest it, because if they do look to clash head-on with Obey right now in a 5v5, there's no chance that they take that one home.
Yeah, probably the case.
They just have to keep trying to find whatever farm they may. I like what Spudio is doing. As the Apollo, this is exactly what he needs to be looking for, is that split push potential to try and bring Mouse somewhat even in gold so they can get the itemization online that they need to hold off better on their defenses. Athena
left behind to go defend. Of course, she does have the ultimate. CaptainTwig immediately impaled. The right side Phoenix going to go down nice and easily for Obey Alliance. Raxia, just with his mind on the prize, able to take care of that. BigManTingz looking for the flank, instead just gets stepped on. PrettyPriMe again. Kill number 7 for the mid lane mage. 10,000 player damage ahead of number 2. What a game for PrettyPriMe. Dardez unleashes the ultimate. Beautiful avoidance from Ataraxia. Zeus comes out one more time. Dardez eats it. 7 kills without a fall for PrettyPriMe. 23 minutes in. Obey Alliance in the driver's seat. Taco, I think they're going to take this one.
Another big problem, too, by the way, is the fact that all 5 members of Mouse tried to come back and defend. And Obey didn't even have to stop for a second. They just continue that siege all the way through, steamrolling straight into the base of Mouse here. And that's just the results. It's the repercussions, the price you pay for going this far out on a limb.
Yeah, it's really tough for them at the moment. Composition a little bit. I maintain mousesports going to pick any 5 gods, and PrettyPriMe does this. This is what he does, and that is less a commentary in defense of mousesports playing around with their draft, and more commentary on the fact that PrettyPriMe Zeus is just unmanageable a lot of the times.
He's been killing it. There's no one to get up in his face. Yeah. It's very difficult for anybody from Mouse to actually try and tackle the Zeus by themselves, because even if you do, let's say hypothetically, Dardez and Spudio both somehow managed to get past Xaliea, to get past CaptainTwig and iRaffer, and they find PrettyPriMe all by himself in the middle of the jungle. Even still, I am very doubtful that they would be able to kill him by themselves at this stage because of how much damage PrettyPriMe can do, and all he has to do is wait it out underneath his own ultimate.
Yeah, the ult is... oof. Something needs to happen. Somebody needs to deal with PrettyPriMe here. Just really problematic on the Zeus. He always has been. I think he always will be. Just one of those legendary players you might see. Cherryo was here. Nice AoE stun there coming out. Triple charge to make sure that he's not hit by the charge prey. And he's going to scamper away. Dardez does 0 damage to the opposition. Cherryo chased and cut down. Xaliea, his 2nd kill of the contest.
Obey right now, they've got the creep wave pressure back in their favor in mid. Seems like they're just going to charge all the way down this lane as well. Left T2 has been taken, but BigManTingz make quick work of that T1 in solo. So a little bit of a benefit, although a small one for Mouse. It's just Mouse trying to take whatever they can get that's left on the map right now for them, because Obey have pretty much forced them into scraps.
Nika forced into the ultimate as iRaffer looks for the taunt. Half HP on iRaffer. He is still tanking the Phoenix. We'll have to be careful. Prime gets 1 for now. CaptainTwig waiting for BigManTingz on the bottom, and Xaliea snipes that one away. Left side Phoenix goes down. 2 birds. Our history. The mid lane Firebird going to be the next target for OA.
It's not over just yet, however. Obey can't get cozy immediately. iRaffer still sitting incredibly low, but Ataraxia going to use Living Nightmare to come back to the fight immediately. Vicious Barrage into the Crystallized Curses won't be enough to seal the deal this time around, but Mouse, there is still 1 mid Phoenix remaining, and it seems as though Obey have shifted their attention away from sieging the Titan into this Firebird.
Yep, mid lane Phoenix is going to fall down. Cherryo also, by the way, going to fall down. PrettyPriMe finding himself in double digits. Obey Alliance now getting ready for the final push, or what could be if Mouse can't play D. 5-on-3 at the moment. Half HP on the Titan already. Obey Alliance looking towards it. Here comes Dardez pushing Ataraxia out. But mousesports have the damage with or without their Hunter player. CaptainTwig does get taken down by BMT. iRaffer trying to finish it off, and he will. 26 minutes of play, and Obey Alliance take care of this one.
I did like what Dardez did at the end there, trying to focus out both PrettyPriMe and Ataraxia. If you could keep the main structure dealers or structure damage dealers away, then maybe the Titan could stay standing just a little bit longer, or at least long enough to kill the front line. But it just never really came to light there. That one just kind of got away from, I think, Mouse really early on, and it is just part of the game. It's part of the risk. Mouse went for something that was unconventional, but it had a smart mindset behind it. It just didn't really pan out very well because of how excellently Obey managed to counter draft the strat.
Yeah, I think this was just Zeus happened, man. Oh well. You guys at home, let us know who you think the PrettyPriMe of the game, the MVP of the game is here. You know where my mind's at.
I think you said it right.
You know where my mind's
don't
at.
get me wrong. So.
I'm thinking PrettyPriMe all the way. This guy controlled the game. Mouse weren't even able to. If I'm sitting at Mouse, right? Like I have experience in other games doing this sort of thing where you have an idea, you have a mindset, a composition, a deck, whatever, and then you're doing your numbers, and then you go, all right, I've played 3 games and I've won 2 of them. This is one that you kind of throw out because I don't think the composition you just got Zeus.
I think considering where Obey are currently at in the fall split, and this is only week 3, it's still relatively early on. The secondary phase of the round robin has not yet begun, so I don't fault Mouse for trying something new. I think that when you're in the current position that they are with the standings, you may as well go as far out there in left field as possible if it might result in a win.
Well, that's it for us for game number 1. Let's take a deeper look and get ready for the second game of the series.
Sweater weather and Taco over there having a good time towards the end of that cast. Let's move on and talk a little bit about what happened there with Obey and Mouse, because I don't think Mouse had a good time. Prime kind of did whatever he felt like.
So it was a very unique strategy and composition from mousesports, putting it lightly. But the issue that they ran into was not being able to penetrate the backline to dive onto PrettyPriMe, just running wild. Sitting at 10, 1, and 6, Zeus's damage was just out of control.
And for what it's worth, I don't think it's because BigManTingz failed in his mid lane assignment by any means. We were able to see that he was having the impact they were looking for. It was hard to try and take him down. I don't think there was enough pressure coming out from the jungle, though, for that to really sort of, you know, the same way that like a Thor could get back there, a Cat could get back there. Like some of these junglers get back there and put pressure on Prime. Prime never really felt that. 36,000 damage is absurd. Oh, yeah. That's 3 times as much as anyone else in the game. I mean, my man was doing it all.
And if you're going to be doing this kind of strategy, hold off on the pick for your jungler. Cherryo could have been popping off if he was playing the Ymir or Kabrak, and those walls would have cut off PrettyPriMe completely.
And PrettyPriMe is indeed the one selected as the MVP, your most valuable Prime. Who could have thought that it was going to go any other way there, Totally? Certainly not myself, and certainly not everyone out there in Mixer Chat. Again, thank you all for voting. That's just a big old. Everyone's in it, man. I mean, that's just Prime finds shots like that all game long.
Maximum value also off of the Chain Lightning. And CaptainTwig was doing a good job on the Achilles, you know, capitalizing with the Fatal Strike afterwards, even setting up for the initial damage.
And this is what Obey, I feel like, does well, right, is that they respond. Early on, it really looked like it was actually mousesports who had the pressure, and I guess when you put 2 hunters together in a lane, you know, and a warrior's not where you expected, you're going to probably get some early pressure as a result of that. But Obey kind of held on until they were able to come back around. They were down gold, but Prime was way ahead.
That's right. It was actually Dardez that got that first blood to start off the game by... You know, such a good performance out of him playing the Anhur. Whenever support can play a mechanical, demanding god such as that, it just goes to show the talent level behind Dardez. But I think it eventually caught up with mousesports. A very late transcendence out of him. He had 44 stacks by the 23-minute mark. He was going for like this pseudo damage build. I'm not really the biggest fan of it in the world. And because there was like no ability to dive PrettyPriMe, there was no potential win for Mouse.